Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, grab a seat. Come on in and hit that light, hit that light. Oh, you're Aunt Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Grab a seat, prop your feet. Let's sip some tea, sip that tea. Entertainment, news, and spirituality. From the culture to the fun, Auntie sets the tone. Sets the tone. With a laugh and a truth, she holds the throne. She holds the throne, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Come on in now. Auntie Mickey's house. Oh, Auntie's house. You're in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat, yeah, yeah. Come on in and hit that like, don't forget now. Auntie Mickey's house. She can roast with a smile, drop wisdom too. Break down the headlines, bring it straight to you. Straight to you, baby. Community strong, conversation grown. Grown talk, baby. Auntie Mickey's house, make yourself at home, yeah. Come together, every voice is heard. Every voice. Respect the vibe, let's share the word. Oh, yeah. From the jokes to the prayers, she keeps it real. Keeps it real. Auntie Mickey's house, that's the deal. That's the deal, baby. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. Oh yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. On in the house. You know you're in the house. Come on in and grab a seat. Grab a seat. Come on in and hit the light. Hit the light, hit the light. You're at Auntie Mickey's. Yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. It's Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. You're in her house. You know you're in her house. Come on in and grab a seat. Grab a seat, come on in and hit that light. Hit that light. Oh, you're at Auntie Mickey's. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Auntie's house. Auntie's house. Auntie's house. Grab a seat, drop your feet, let's sip some tea. Sip that tea. Entertainment, news, and spirituality. From the culture to the fun, Auntie sets the tone. With a laugh and a truth, she holds the throne. She holds the throne, yeah. Auntie's house. Oh, Auntie's house. You know you're in her house. Come on in and grab a seat, yeah. Come on in and hit that light, don't forget. Auntie Mickey's. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie Mickey's house. Oh yeah, yeah. She can roast with a smile, drop wisdom too. Break down the headlines, bring it straight to you. Straight to you, baby. Community strong, conversation grown. Grown talk, baby. Auntie Mickey's house. Make yourself at home, yeah. Come together, every voice is heard. Every voice. Respect the vibe, let's share the word. Oh yeah. From the jokes to the prayers, she keeps it real. Keeps it real, keeps it real. That's the deal. That's the deal, baby. Yeah, yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. Auntie's house. Oh yeah. Auntie Mickey's house. You know you're in a house. Come on in and grab a seat. Grab a seat. come on in and hit that light, hit the light. Oh, you're way to Auntie Mickey's. Yeah. Auntie Mickey's house, Auntie Mickey's house, Auntie Mickey's house. Oh.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Hold on, let me get my music up and running. I am scrambling. Let me turn it up a little bit. I hope everybody's doing okay. Happy Tuesday to everybody in the house. Let's see, what do we got going here? We got LaWanda in the house. Hello, LaWanda. Hello, Retretta. Hi, Camille. Oh, my goodness. 3 folks, and I'm glad to see you, but there's a bunch of folks in the bushes, and I need them people in the bushes to hit that like button. I don't ask for much, although, at times it's getting hard these days. I'm going to have to start asking. But nevertheless, it is nothing to hit the like button. So please do me that solid and hit that like button if you're in the bushes. Please, please, please. Now, right now, I know I'm off camera because I look a hot mess. I ain't gonna lie. I have been struggling and scrambling at the same time. Yes, it's almost Christmas. Hi, baby. I see you downstairs. I am up here scrambling, trying to get this thumbnail together for this video. But, hey, it can wait, I guess. Maybe not. I'm kind of anal like that. I like to have my stuff set up in advance. But, nevertheless, glad to be here. Glad to be here. I was going to talk about Diddy and Trump, but something kind of steered me in a different direction. And just a little side note, last night, for those of you that were there on the live for Auntie Mickey's slots, ooh-wee, pray for me. That's not always the greatest feeling, but hey, I don't go home broke. Trust and believe, I don't go home broke. I only take what I can afford to lose. And, yeah. But anyhow, we're going to talk about, we've got the Rob Reiner, Michelle Reiner, Nick Reiner thing going right now. But, with everybody talking about that, we seem to forget that there was another famous couple. Those of you who know, we go back to like the 70s, 80s. And back then, Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal were a power couple. Now, they're both gone. They're both dead and gone. But they also have a son who holds some very similar attributes to Nick. And, it totally slipped my mind. I had heard about him before, and I didn't pay it too much attention. That's on me. But, man, when I started reading about these similarities and what transpired with Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal's son, it was alarming. Very, very similar attributes. And actually something similar happened with him as well. And I do have some information to bring to you. If you hold on just a second. Let me get this video up for you. I think it's uploaded by now. Just give me a second. Give me a second. I'm still struggle streaming. I'm still trying to learn this thing. Hold the dough. Okay, there it is. There it is. I did it. I did it. Let me get it back to the very beginning. But we really have to take into consideration. We've been talking about this a lot. Mental illness is no joke. And people, unless they have experienced it, it's very, very hard to wrap your head around the possibilities that one may go through that suffer from this horrible, horrible thing. So let me jump out of here. Okay. Luanda, I don't know where Jess is. Jess is busy. She's working full time. I don't bother her. She's doing her thing, and God bless her. I would never ask somebody to step out of their norms to accommodate me or anybody else for that matter. She's got a lot on her plate. She's a single mother doing her thing. And God bless her for it. I understand how it is to raise. She's only raising one. I had to raise two, but I wasn't a single parent either. So, it is what it is. But, I'm sure she pops in every now and then. Yes, she does. She pops in every now and then. And I'm glad that she does. She's close by too. So, eventually I'll probably hook up with her soon. Hold on just a second. I'm putting this thumbnail together anyway. Oh my goodness. But anyway, what I have here, I have an article. Let me see here. Let me get this in order. So I don't want to just throw stuff out there. Today, I believe it was today, they came out with the death certificates for Rob Reiner and his wife. I didn't get a chance to really look through this, but nevertheless, I'm going to share. We're going to look at it together. How about that? Here we go. I was told to go with the flow. My nephew told me to go with the flow because I told him, I said, Stone, I do not know what I'm going to talk about. He said, just go with the flow, Auntie. So I'm going to go with the flow. Pardon me if I stumble. Right here it says Rob Reiner, death certificate reveals which family member got his and wife's remains. Now this is just an update on the case. In cases like this, you got to stay on top of everything. There's new information every day on this. And this is what you got to do. You gotta roll with it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm rolling with it. So just be patient with me and I will get this together. Hold on just a second. There we go. And plus my grandson had my iPad and I couldn't find it. So I couldn't get much done that I wanted to get done. So hold on just a second. Okay. Hold the door. Hold the door. Hold the door. Well, when these kids go home, it be it's nice to have them here, but in the same token, when you got stuff you got to do and got to entertain the kids, and they using your stuff when you need it. Lord have mercy. Anyway, let me go ahead and pop this out for you. So, Rob Reiner's death certificate, him and his wife's death certificate have been published now. Hi, C. Gonzalez. How are you, my love? It says Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, were cremated after their burial, Merker, and their remains were given to their oldest son, Jake, according to the couple's death certificates. Hey, Merry Christmas. Crystal, how you doing, love? Good to see you, sweetie. Okay, it says the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office released the death certificates of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, today. The document obtained by the Post reveals what the public already knew. Each died from multiple sharp point injuries caused with knife from another. Now, as you recall, initially they said that their throats were slit. That was the initial report. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in very much on here without messing it up. Yep, I've been and messed it up. But anyway, this is the death certificate. This one belongs to Michelle. And this one, I'm sorry, this is Michelle's. I'm sorry, the second one is Rob Reiner's death certificate. My bad. So as it goes on to say, the death certificates also show that Rob and Michelle were cremated at Mount Sinai Mortuary, and their final place of disposition is at the residence of their son, Jake Reiner. So clearly they haven't put them in any kind of tomb or burial plot of any kind. They're in an urn. They're in an urn with the son, and I definitely can relate. I got 4 of them sitting in my living room of my family, so eventually I'll get around to putting them all together as well. But sometimes it can be very comforting, believe it or not. It can be very comforting to have your family that's gone just right there with you, even though it's not them. You know it's, if you know, you know. Rob's occupation is listed as actor/director/producer, and Michelle's is listed as a producer. Rob's death certificate has a time of death of 3:45 p.m. and Michelle's is 3:46. My goodness. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness. He attacked them both at the same time. Good Lord. Rob's marital status is married and, while Michelle said widowed. So Rob's marital status is married while Michelle says widowed. That's interesting. First responders were called to the family's home at 3:30 p.m. on December 14th, meaning the time of death is likely when they were officially pronounced dead at the scene. So apparently that's when they were pronounced dead, not necessarily when it actually occurred. As the Post reported last week, the examiner's office revealed the director of The Princess Bride and his wife died from multiple sharp force injuries. Shameful. The manner of death for both Rob and Michelle was listed as homicide. The news was revealed just hours after their son, Nick Reiner, made his first appearance in court since his parents' deaths. Nick's lawyer, Alan Jackson, told reporters outside Los Angeles Municipal Court on Wednesday that an arraignment has been set for January 7th, 2026. LaWanda, that's actually what I was just saying, that the times are listed as a minute apart, but that's actually, they explained it that this is when they were pronounced dead. So, of course, right here where it says, let me find it. First responders were called to the family's home at 3:30 p.m. on December 14th, meaning the time of death is likely when they were officially pronounced dead at the scene. So that explains why one was pronounced dead at 3:45, the other at 3:46, not necessarily when they actually were unalived. The Post previously reported that Rob, 78, and Michelle, 70, were found stabbed to death in their Brentwood home in Los Angeles on Sunday, December 14th. Later that evening, Nick was arrested on charges of murking following the tragic deaths of his parents. Nick, 32, was formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with a special circumstance following a press hearing Tuesday. These charges will be 2 counts of first-degree unaliving with a special circumstance of multiple unalivings, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman told reporters. He also faces a special allegation that he personally used a dangerous and deadly weapon, that being a knife. Hochman added, these charges carry a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. No decision at this point has been made with respect to the death penalty. He explained during the presser that the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office will take the thoughts and desires of the family into consideration regarding the death penalty if Nick is convicted. Sources told the Post that the couple's bodies were discovered in their Los Angeles mansion by their daughter, Romy Reiner. Stab wounds to their throats, as well as multiple wounds throughout Rob and Michelle's bodies, were discovered. And again, they initially reported, when this all went down, they initially reported that they both had their throats slit. There was no mention of multiple stab wounds. The couple's other shared children, Romy and Jake, released a statement on the family tragedy days later. Words cannot even begin to describe the unimaginable pain we are experiencing every moment of the day. The horrific and devastating loss of our parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, is something that no one should ever experience, the siblings said. They weren't just our parents, they were our best friends. We are grateful for the outpouring of condolences, kindness, and support we have received, not only from family and friends, but people from all walks of life. They concluded the statement, we now ask for respect and privacy, for speculation to be tempered with compassion and humanity, and for our parents to be remembered for the incredible lives they lived and the love they gave. Hold on just a second. Nick was notably not mentioned in the statement. Rob and Michelle married in 1989 after meeting on the set of When Harry Met Sally. Rob also shared daughter Tracy from his previous marriage to Penny Marshall. But I find it very, like I said before, a lot of us don't remember the other couple that had something similar take place. That would be Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal's son. Hold on just a second, I'll pull that up as well. Okay. Another A-list knife attack case could preview what happens to Nick Reiner after shocking double unaliving charges. Nick Reiner's shocking alleged double murder of his parents has shaken Hollywood to its core, but has also been complicated by reports of him suffering from schizophrenia. Hi, Ann Lloyd. How are you, sweetheart? The 32-year-old, one-time screenwriter was recently diagnosed with the condition and taking new medication which was making him out of his head in the weeks before the murder, according to website TMZ. Since then, it has been speculated the diagnosis could have contributed to his flipping and unaliving filmmaker Rob Reiner, 78, and photographer Michelle Singer Reiner, 70, with a knife on the night of December 13th. He has yet to enter a plea at court. Uh-oh, it skipped. Although the events seem unprecedented, there are eerie parallels with the case of another substance abuse addicted son of Hollywood royalty who also went off the rails and attacked people with a knife, which provides hints at what could happen next. So in other words, we have a situation here with two offspring of Hollywood, what you would consider a Hollywood royal couple, Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, and then Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal. Both have a son. Each of them have sons that are diagnosed schizophrenic. As a matter of fact, Farrah and Ryan's son was diagnosed with more than just schizophrenia. He was also diagnosed with bipolar and a couple other things. Like Reiner, Redmond O'Neal was born into fame as the son of Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal. He was also addicted to substances from a young age and was in and out of rehab. In 2018, he went on a brutal knife rampage across Los Angeles, leaving 2 men stabbed, one in the face, and resulting in charges of attempted unaliving, assault with a deadly weapon, making criminal threats, and battery. When his mental health was evaluated, it showed O'Neal was suffering schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. Sounds a lot like Nick, huh? Put a 1 in the chat if you think this sounds a lot like Nick. If you closed your eyes and didn't see these two people, you think we were talking about one person, aside from the offenses that were done? Or is it just me? Yes, Retretta says, so sad at holiday time. I remember that other one, unaliving also. I just couldn't believe it. Yeah. But we've become so desensitized, unfortunately, at these situations that they go and come and you completely forget about it almost. It's pretty sad when you think about it. When his case came to court, the judge was forced to repeatedly halt proceedings when medical experts testified that he could not meaningfully assist in his own defense, a requirement for trial. What followed was more than a year of legal limbo as O'Neill was shuttled between courtrooms, psychiatric hospitals, and jail cells as the court wrestled with whether the case could even move forward. He has since been institutionalized at Patton State Hospital in Los Angeles. The way the California Penal Code is, you can only be incompetent to stand trial for 2 years. Then they either commit you long term or drop the charges. California-based forensic psychologist Dr. Natalie Sobel told the Post, Fawcett died in 2009 from cancer. I'll never forget that day because that's the same day Michael Jackson died. Y'all put a 1 in the chat if you remember the day that Michael Jackson died. But it was Farrah Fawcett that died that morning. So it's almost like, her death was definitely publicized widely. But when Michael died that afternoon, it just kind of wiped hers right off the board. Funny how that kind of stuff happened. Fawcett died in 2009 from cancer and Ryan O'Neill in 2023 from heart failure. Redmond attended his mother's funeral under police supervision, but not his father's. He remains under California state care. Yes, Lawanda, it was June. Definitely. I'll never forget that. Shoot, I was at work. They was announcing Michael was gone. I was like, what? We all just kind of gathered around the television. Now this is a picture of the son, Redmond, when he was a young boy. He suffered it back then too. Hi, Millionaire's Cove. How are you, sweetie? The troubled son of Farrah Fawcett, Ryan O'Neill, suffers from severe mental illness, including schizophrenia. This is so sad. This is him as a young man. However, after 7 years, the court has ruled he has returned to competency, and the attempted unaliving charges against him are moving forward, with a hearing set for January. That's a long time to sit there and wait to see if someone's competent. He has behaved himself completely appropriately while at Patton State and is a model inmate. We will see how the case plays out. It is our hope we can resolve this matter with the district attorney. O'Neill's attorney, Dana Cole, told the Post. If Reiner's attorneys raise similar concerns about their client, competency evaluations could also delay his case for years, social sources told the Post. However, Dr. Sobel also pointed out that when it comes to mental health issues, the California legal system can have many different outcomes. Reiner was also in a better position than O'Neill when his alleged crimes occurred. You know who he looks like right there? Doesn't he look like Harry from the royal family? My goodness, he looks just like Harry, red hair and all. Wow, bless his heart. Golly, he's a spitting image. I'm not trying to be funny, my goodness. He looks like Harry. Called Save the Queen. No, it wasn't funny, I'm sorry. Nick Reiner is a smart guy who has made films and did press tours, and he was functional enough to attend a party the night before the unalivings. pointed out Deborah Dino, a professor of law at Fordham Law School, to the Post. The legal standard for incompetency is whether or not you can understand the nature of proceedings. Reiner was being treated by a psychiatrist for his condition, but in the month before the murders, his behavior became alarming as doctors switched his medication, sources told TMZ. About 3 to 4 weeks before his parents were found stabbed to death in their Brentwood mansion, his prescription was altered, making him erratic and dangerous, the sources claimed to the outlet. That he's schizophrenic, this is something that could be relevant to a legal argument in his defense. If his medication could be associated with violence or setting him off, noted Deno. In the case of his parents, Slaughter Nick, who has 2 surviving siblings, Jake, 34, and Rami, 28, and a half-sibling, Tracy, 61, is facing 2 counts of first-degree murder, and the district attorney can pursue the death penalty. Professor Deno told the Post the first thing his legal team will likely be focusing on is to take that off the table. That's going to be the immediate primary goal, she speculated. He might end up agreeing to a plea bargain. His lawyers would want to avoid a trial at all costs, she claimed. If the case does go to trial, Professor Deno said, Reiner's attorneys would have a range of possible defenses to work with, including insanity and reduced capabilities based on his mental illness and medication changes. However, Dr. Sobel said only 25% of cases where the defendant pleads not guilty by reason of insanity have a result in favor of the defendant. It's not an easy defense to pursue. The legal standard is very complex. It's not just whether someone can tell right from wrong, but whether you know something is morally wrong. Someone can be psychotic or mentally ill and still be sane in the eyes of the law. Being high on drugs is not enough to legally meet the criteria for a not guilty by reason of insanity defense in California. For his part, Reiner's high-profile attorney, Alan Jackson, has called the case a devastating tragedy, but not given much else away, only urging people not to rush to judgment or jump to conclusions and to respect that the system and its process deserves and that the family deserves. Hello, Chandra Sparkle. How are you, love? So, yeah, with that said, we have 2 different cases here, pretty much bearing the same situation. And for those of you that remember Ryan O'Neal and Farrah Fawcett, they're both gone now. So it's almost a blessing that they don't have to sit back and watch this happen to their son. Hi, Catherine. How are you, love? So again, we talked about mental illness earlier, or last week. We talked about that last week. And when it comes down to medications, psychotic medications, and how the medical world, the psychiatric world, is kind of doing a dance, so to speak, trying to get this right, that right. And in these particular cases, especially in high-profile cases like this, you find that there's not only mental illness, but a substance abuse problem as well. And what ends up happening is that at one point they're treating the mental illness, and then later on they flip and they try to treat the drug addiction which makes the mental illness worse, if that makes any sense, because they're playing with the meds on one side and they're trying to wipe out the addiction on the other side, but they're not meshing the two together, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like robbing from Peter to pay Paul. But this young man, Ryan and Farrah's son, he had a pretty rough situation going on. I don't know all of the details about what happened with him, but it was pretty brutal. Just like Ron and Michelle's son, Nick. So I found a video here. And it's been recent too. It's a recent video talking about Redmond O'Neill. And I will be jumping in occasionally just to avoid any copyright infringement. But I do want to share this with you because it's imperative that people understand that this is no joke. Mental illness and substance abuse are like oil and water. They don't work, but in the same token, that person that's going through this has to cope some kind of way. And when the doctors can't get it right, that person in their mind is forced to have to fix it themselves until the doctors can get it right. And it becomes a vicious circle, a vicious cycle. Hold on just a second. Let me turn this down so y'all can hear it. And like I said, I'm going to jump in occasionally because I don't want to step on anybody's toes about their video.
Redmond O'Neill has a history of legal troubles. The 33-year-old son of Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neill now facing half a dozen new charges.
Redmond O'Neill, Farrah Fawcett's son, has revealed the continuing decline of his mental health and legal situation. Despite his mother's dying wishes and financial provisions for his care, the 33-year-old has spent most of his life cycling through jails, treatment centers, and psychiatric wards. Today, new details are being revealed from his end, and the world is curious.
Fortunately, let me put it like this. Retretta says, Auntie, since the age of 15, why what started it? Something had to start it. I bet it was something at home. Unfortunately, sweetheart, this is not something that starts because of something. This is something, it's embedded in them. He's born this way. It doesn't manifest until later. Mental illness is not something that happens to you. It's something that you already have in you that ends up manifesting. Medically, that's basically it. Psychiatric issues such as this, bipolar, schizophrenia, that kind of thing. There's nothing that could happen to that person that would cause it. Now, something could happen to bring it out of them, but it was already there to begin with. They say with bipolar, usually young girls, when they're bipolar, theirs kind of peaks out when they're 15, 16, somewhere in that area. With boys, it's a little later. And with my son, he was 19 years old, most mild-mannered young man you'd ever want to meet. And I'm speaking from experience, and I know you guys probably tired of hearing my story. But this is why I can understand kind of what these parents went through. Because you can have the greatest life in the world and still this pops up. And it's nothing that the parents did. It's nothing that the kid did. It's just something in their chemistry that's not right. And it's going to come out regardless of anything that may or may not happen in their life.
How is Raymond O'Neal faring? Is he getting better, or does the light at the end of the tunnel seem dim? In this video, we'll find out the truth in full. Come along. Redmond O'Neal remains hospitalized with no signs of recovery. Redmond O'Neal's life today is one that many would describe as heartbreaking. And yet, it is also a story that forces people to pause and reflect on how fragile the human mind can be, no matter where one comes from or who their parents are. Here was the son of two Hollywood icons, Ryan O'Neal and Farrah Fawcett, names that once sparkled in the world of fame and success. People often imagine that children born into celebrity households are destined for glamorous lives filled with opportunities and privilege. But is that really always the case? Redmond's situation shows that fame and fortune cannot shield anyone from the silent storms that come from within. At the age of 39, his condition is seen as bleak by medical professionals who continue to do their best to care for him, even as progress remains painfully slow.
They said the same thing about Nick. He's 32 now. And they started playing with his meds, trying to get him adjusted as a result of his, drug addiction and his mental illness. But trying to balance it and trying to get it right, sometimes they end up treating the side effects instead of treating what they're doing to him. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the medication that they're administering. It's the medication that's causing the psychosis, but they're treating the psychosis and not figuring out the medication. I know it sounds weird, but think about it. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're ignoring one aspect to treat another aspect, and in turn, the aspect that they're not treating at the moment is suffering, meaning the mental illness. He had two situations going, and that's generally the case with a lot of people that are schizophrenic or bipolar. It's such a tightrope in the medical field, not to mention the fact that we've got the pharmaceutical industry out here pushing medication like it's candy. Try this new pill, try that new pill, try this new pill, try that new pill. And who suffers in the long run when it doesn't work? Pharmaceutical business is a multi-billion-dollar business. And it's almost to their benefit to keep people sick. Because what does that do? It puts money in their pockets. That's just my own opinion.
Doctors have confirmed that Redmond's mental health challenges are not only severe but also incredibly complex. His diagnosis includes schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. Each of these conditions alone is already daunting, but when combined, they create a nearly impossible puzzle for medical teams to solve.
He had 3 different situations going on: schizophrenia, bipolar. I can't even remember that third one they said. But each one in itself is traumatic. And you put all that together and you've got a toxic situation. So yeah, this is going to be very complex to sort out. And it's very complex in treating it with medication.
Schizophrenia distorts his perception of reality, leading him to struggle with thoughts and awareness. Bipolar disorder causes extreme shifts in his mood, from overwhelming highs to crushing lows. Then there is antisocial personality disorder, which is marked by patterns of disregard for the rights and feelings of others. Can one even begin to imagine how difficult it must be for a person to carry all of this at once? For the doctors, the challenge is just as heavy, because treatments for one condition sometimes go against treatments for another. It is a delicate balancing act, where every step forward can easily lead to 2 steps back. Redmond's struggles did not appear out of nowhere. Medical records show that years of substance abuse worsened his mental state to the point where it became almost unrecognizable. Experts believe that the prolonged use of substances did more than just affect his lifestyle. It may have permanently changed his brain chemistry.
The one that says, I wonder if his parents ever tried to get him a home where he could be monitored with his meds. Well, when you're dealing with an adult, when you're dealing with a grown person, parents can only do so much. And I, for one, can attest to that. My son, like I said, he was 19 at the time. He was legally an adult. And I couldn't force him to do anything. The only thing that what we could force him to do was be hospitalized for 72 hours. That's the only thing we could force. But we couldn't force him to do anything more. I couldn't force him to take the medication. Because he's a grown up. He's a grown man. But now when you've got the resources that these wealthy Hollywood people have, Wanda says, I just wonder because I know someone who did it for their daughter. How old was the daughter, sweetheart? Because she very well may have been compliant with that idea. It's nothing. No one's saying that it's not possible. Because parents can be very influential over their grown children. 20-something. Okay. Chances are, and I'm no professional at this by any means, the parents had some sort of influence over this child in a positive way. Chances are this was a loving family who cared about their child, and she knew how much they cared, and she loved and respected them. I don't know what her diagnosis was, but every diagnosis is different from another. So that's the best I can come up with on that one.
And when brain chemistry is altered in such a deep way, traditional treatments, whether medication or therapy, often become less effective. Imagine trying to fix a wound that keeps reopening no matter how many times it is bandaged. That is the battle doctors face daily with Redmond. To add to this, there are reports of childhood trauma that still haunt him. Trauma, when left unresolved, can linger like a shadow that follows a person into every chapter of their life. How can anyone truly heal when the past refuses to let go? In 2019, the legal system was forced to intervene in Redmond's life as well, but not in the way most people expect. He had been charged in 2018 with armed robbery and violent assaults, cases that should have taken him straight into the courtroom. However, after careful evaluation, psychiatrists declared that he was unfit to stand trial. In simple terms, he could not understand the legal proceedings, nor could he assist his lawyers in defending him. The courts ruled that his psychiatric conditions made it impossible for him to think rationally in such a setting. And so, instead of facing trial like any other defendant, Redmond was remanded to psychiatric care.
Retreader says, Auntie, I had a cousin who was bipolar. She was told that in the senior year high school, she unalived herself at 34. Sad and long story. She had 2 children. Bipolar is a bad disease. Sweetheart, you are preaching to the choir. Because I lived it. I lived it. Your cousin sounds very much like my son. The only difference is my son, he did pass away at 33. The first thing that people wanted to think was that he unalived himself. No, that's not what happened. He drowned in a lake. So, when you've got that stigma on you, the first thing people want to say, oh, well, he was battling bipolar. Oh, he probably unalived himself. This was not the case. He drowned in a lake. Water was too cold. His body froze. I mean, not froze, but seized up. His muscles seized up from the temperature of the water. But I understand how someone who's battling bipolar or schizophrenia can get to the point where they just can't take it anymore. That's why they self-medicate. And like I said before, my son self-medicated. He didn't turn to the illegal substances as a lot of people do, like methamphetamines and heroin and all those other awful narcotics. But my son turned to marijuana. And guess what? It worked. Now, it didn't cure him, but it certainly turned that mess around to where he could be a functional individual, contributing to society. He held a job, he raised 2 kids, had a wonderful relationship, the whole nine. He was a good son, you name it. But when it comes down to some of these Hollywood kids, when they've got the world at their hands, their parents have unlimited resources. The Reiners put Nick in a facility that costed $70,000 a month. $70,000 a month. Think about that. Some folks don't make that in a year. But see, that's one of those facilities you're paying for the luxury that comes with that facility and not necessarily for the treatment that's needed. They got swimming pools and different luxurious resort type atmospheres for them. And it's just like going on vacation, but it doesn't always treat the problem. So throwing money at the situation was not the best thing. He needed to be in a facility that was literally focused on his problem. That's what she said. She was tired of all the meds and hospitals and doctors. She overdosed on meds. Yes, that happens. They give up. They get tired. They give up, they get tired. Mom, I can't keep taking this medication. It turns me into a zombie. I can't function. I can't function, Mom. That's what I heard. Ma, I can't do anything. He'd walk around like a zombie. And I would just cry in my room because that was not my baby. That's how demonic this disease is. But I taught my sons both. You fool around and unalive yourself, and you're basically condemning yourself to hell. So they knew the Lord. They both of them knew the Lord. And they understood the power of prayer. And I embedded that in both of my kids. No matter what happens to you in life, Satan will plant a seed to make you want to take yourself out. Don't fall for the okie doke, baby. Because you fall for that okie doke and there's no coming back. You can't ask for forgiveness if you're gone. So I thank God that I put that in my kids. My husband and I both put that in our kids, that is not of God. There's nothing too hard for God. God will help you cope. But to kill yourself, that's not in God's plan, nor is it his way.
The charges still remain, locked away in files, waiting for a time when his mental state may improve enough for the system to move forward. But what happens if that day never comes? Would those charges remain frozen in time, just like his life seems to be? Inside treatment facilities, Redmond's progress has been described as minimal, if not stagnant. Staff who monitor him daily have spoken of his unstable moods. At times, he is deeply paranoid, and at other times he shuts down emotionally, withdrawing into silence. Treatment plans have been put in place, medication management, therapy sessions, and structured activities that aim to give him some stability, but his willingness to participate remains inconsistent. Some days, he refuses medication altogether, convinced that it is poisonous, a common delusion linked to schizophrenia. Other days, he might show signs of regret about his situation, expressing sadness for the way things turned out, only to fall back into agitation or dissociation.
Here's the thing, and Lord, thank you for giving me this to say. Too many people are so busy trying to figure out the flesh. Man is so hell-bent on trying to figure out the flesh instead of turning to the Creator. A lot of people ain't gonna catch that. You might catch it on the way out the door. But when you put spirituality in your life, I don't care if you're Baptist, Kojic, Muslim, but whoever you honor as your Creator, acknowledge Him that He is the one that is in control of everything. When you do that, that's instilled in them, even in their psychosis. Doctors, you cannot put all your faith in doctors, especially today. You can't put all of your faith in the doctors. The doctors are human, just like the rest of us. And I understand that God gave us doctors, physicians. That's biblical. I understand that. But God gave them. Not they gave God. God gave them to us. And but you got to instill in your kids from an early age. I wonder if those Reiners really instilled God into that young man's heart. I wonder if Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal instilled God into that young man's heart. Or did they go on about their everyday doing their jobs, and when stuff got funky, they threw money at it? Money don't save you. God saves you. You can lose money, but God is always going to be there. God's going to always be there. I'm a firm believer of that. And I can only refer to my son as my template, what we dealt with. Whenever my son would go into one of his situations, one of his episodes, he would get extremely spiritual. When I say extremely spiritual, he was extremely spiritual in his psychosis. Now, when he was cool, not agitated or whatnot, he was your everyday person. He didn't talk about God or nothing like that. But when he went into his psychosis, his episodes, you would think that boy went to Trinity school. And that's real. That comes from instilling God in their lives at an early age and letting them know who their Redeemer is. You're going to go through life, you're going to do some stupid stuff on your own or not on your own. But just know that you don't have the final say as to what happens to you. You have to turn to Him for help. You can't turn to the doctors all the time. Doctors only know so much. But sometimes God will use your situation to prove who He is. Come on, y'all. How do we know that God isn't allowing these things to take place to show man who is really in control? Who is he? Is he showing us that the money don't mean a thing? You can have all the money in the world and you can still unalive your parents. Parents can have all the money in the world and your son can unalive you. In the case of Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal's son, they had all the resources they could in the world. But when it came down to their son, all they had to throw to him, and I'm only speculating. I don't know what them people talked about behind closed doors. But I'm just saying what I'm saying. When you put God in your life and God in your children's life, it's right there in the Bible. They may depart, but they'll come back. And I think we've all done that. We may depart from him, but we will come back. You instill that in your children, and they will always, at some point in time, come back. Now, I don't mean to have church tonight, but it is what it is. You know, we're all flesh and blood. We have our idiosyncrasies. But this is a thing that can actually be looked at on a spiritual level. That's all I'm saying.
Soon after. Isn't it one of life's cruelest ironies that the very medicine meant to heal is sometimes seen as a threat by those who need it most? Family has often been considered one of the strongest sources of healing for people with mental health struggles. But in Redmond's case, that bond appears to be fading. Reports show that he has very little contact with relatives, and in many cases, it is because he himself refuses to see them. This isolation does not help his recovery in any way. Psychologists often stress that having supportive family connections can play a major role in the treatment of mental illnesses, especially in complex cases like his. Yet Redmond seems locked away, not just physically in psychiatric facilities, but also emotionally, keeping a wall between himself and those who might offer comfort. One can only wonder what goes through his mind when he pushes his family away. Is it anger, fear, or a sense of shame? The financial side of his care has been largely covered by the trust left behind by his mother, Farrah Fawcett. Her estate continues to fund the medical costs that pile up with each passing year. Administrators of the trust have admitted concern, not because the resources are lacking, but because, despite the enormous effort and money invested in his treatment, the results remain limited. This situation often raises the uncomfortable question, can money really solve every problem? In Redmond's case, the answer seems to be no.
What did I just say? What did I just say? I haven't even seen this video. Money can only do so much. Money can surround you with what appears to be comfort. But if you don't have comfort in your head, all that flashy, cushy stuff that they surround themselves with in these facilities that cost so much money don't mean a doggone thing. If you ain't right in your head, what is the point? And I'm not trying to criticize nobody. Please don't get me wrong, because I don't know the O'Neals or the Reiners from a can of paint. I don't know what their faith was, but I do know what mine is. And I can truly speak from experience that had it not been for the Lord on our side, we very well could have been in the same situation as these people. You got to stay prayed up. Even in your mess. Even when you're messy. Just take the time out to remind yourself the realness of God. So when you close your eyes for the last time, none of that money's gonna matter. None of that glitz and glamour. None of those fancy hospitals. None of those resorts. None of that's gonna matter. Who do you turn to in your deepest struggle? You can't put your faith in man. You can't put your faith in the money that man makes. You can't put your faith in anything that's man related. You can't. Because he don't have the final say. He's the Band-Aid. God is the cure. Man is the Band-Aid. God can perform surgeries on us that nobody can understand. And again, I'm not trying to preach to the masses. But it is what it is. Some of the craziest people out there have sense enough to know who holds the key. And that doesn't come from overnight prayer vigils. That comes from childhood. You instill that in them when they're kids. Train a child up in the way they should go. Train a child, not train an adult. Train a child up in the way they should go. That's our responsibility as parents. Train a child up in the way they should go, and they'll never depart. They may wander away a little bit, but God has that that leash on them. They get too far away, and they'll snatch them back a little bit. Give a little something for them to be reminded. Look, wait a minute now. You're going a little bit out of line now. Come on back here. He'll put something in their life to remind them who's in control. And this, like I said, I don't intend for this to be a Wednesday or Tuesday night prayer meeting. Okay? But this is the truth. And sometimes the truth ain't all that popular. I'm not worried about the numbers tonight. They will eventually come back. That's right, Millionaire's Code. This young man that is still in this hospital, what does he have to come back to if he hasn't been taught that there's something to come back to? I'm just saying. If you find yourself in and out of hospitals all the time since you're a kid, when did they just put him on his knees and pray? That's just as good as any treatment a hospital can give you, if not better. Mama and daddy taking that child by their hand and as a family getting on their knees and praying. Just to get in the habit of it. To have a relationship. Your own relationship. That young man should have a relationship with God. Nick should have a relationship with God. But if it wasn't instilled in him, how is he going to cope?
Money can buy care, medication, and therapy, but it cannot buy the willingness to heal, nor can it erase years of trauma and chemical imbalance. This reality was not lost on his mother. In fact, Farrah Fawcett's final wishes, the ones she made sure were crystal clear before her passing, revolved around one thing and one thing only, her troubled son. And if you stick with me right till the very end of this story, you'll see just how much her love shaped everything, even after she was gone. Come along to find out. Farrah Fawcett's final wishes focused on her troubled son. Farrah Fawcett's final months were marked by a quiet but heartbreaking reality that she could never quite set aside. Even as she fought a losing battle against cancer, her thoughts were consumed by the future of her only son, Redmond O'Neill. Those closest to her recalled that Farrah's worries were less about her pain and declining health and more about what would happen to Redmond after she was gone. How could a mother truly rest when the child she brought into the world was still struggling so fiercely with demons he could not escape? It seemed that even as her own time was running out, her role as a mother refused to let her stop fighting, at least in spirit, for her troubled son. In her final days leading up to June 25, 2009, the conversations Farrah held almost always circled back to Redmond. Friends and loved ones noted that no matter what topic they began with, she eventually found herself speaking about him. Was he okay? Was he eating well? Was he ever going to find a way out of the darkness of addiction? According to those who sat at her bedside in those last moments, her final coherent words were not about herself or her suffering, but about Redmond's future. She voiced hope that he would find stability, that somehow he would break free from the chains of his legal battles and substance abuse. Even as her body grew weaker each day,
They should have put in there that she hoped that he would find God. Put him first, and all those other things can be dealt with. But I'm just Auntie Mickey. What do I know?
her heart remained steadfast in her devotion to him. This was a mother who, despite knowing her days were numbered, still chose to focus her energy on the well-being of her child. At that time, Redmond was incarcerated for substance-related offenses. The fact that Farrah had to keep in touch with her son through the walls of prison only added another layer of sorrow to her story. But she did not abandon the relationship, even when it would have been easy to withdraw and focus solely on her treatment. Instead, she maintained communication with him as much as she could, keeping the fragile bond alive despite the distance. Their relationship was not simple, and addiction had made things messy and complicated. Yet it was clear that Redmond remained the emotional anchor of her life until her very last breath. Is that not the essence of motherhood? To love unconditionally, even when circumstances make it difficult? Farrah's love did not stop at words. Her foresight in planning for Redmond's future showed just how deeply she understood the seriousness of his struggles. While some might have left behind their wealth in broad strokes, Farrah made sure to direct her legacy in a way that specifically addressed her son's needs. She established a $4.5 million trust.
$4.5 million trust. $4.5 million trust to go to where the doctors, the facilities, the people that dole out the medication, play with the medication, literally guinea pig people with the medication. Let's not forget, this is a $1 billion industry. God don't cost a thing. $4.5 million. But my question is, did you ever get on your knees and pray for your son? That's my question. See, people with money, they seem to think that money is going to solve their problems. Money didn't bring you in this world, and you're definitely going to take you out. So that's my question. Hi, Life Chronicles. How are you, sweetheart?
And this was not just a gift of money, but a carefully thought-out safety net. The trust came with strict conditions, ensuring that the funds would go toward health care and rehabilitation rather than fall into the wrong hands. She knew, perhaps better than anyone else, that unchecked access to money could do more harm than good for someone battling addiction. So she took a mother's protective instincts and translated them into practical action, leaving behind a financial structure that would continue to look after him long after she was no longer able to. This decision spoke volumes about her wisdom and her refusal to let love turn into enabling. Addiction, after all, is not something that can be solved with just money. Farrah recognized that, and so she set guidelines for the trust's administrators to follow carefully. Every dollar was meant to go toward treatment, medication, therapy, or any form of support that could help her son find his footing. In doing this, she left behind a legacy not only of love, but also of responsibility. She understood the complexity of the battle Redmond was fighting, and she made sure her contribution would be one that helped, not harmed. How many people, one might ask, could show such clarity and strength at a time when their own life was slipping away? But Farrah knew money was not enough. She also made emotional provisions. She reached out to her closest friends and asked them, almost pleaded with them, to keep watch over her son after she was gone.
Did she call? Oh my God. Did you call on Jesus? Did you call on Jesus to watch over your son? Okay, you threw a lot of money, and I'm not trying to drag this woman. She did what she knew best to do. She did what she knows best to do, just like the Reiners. They did what they knew best to do. But at the end of the day, you can't put your faith in man. You just can't. All the money in the world, all the friends, all the prominent people you may know in the industry don't mean a damn thing. They have no heaven or hell to put you in. Only God can regulate your mind. And God will provide what he needs for you to do and what he needs for you to take. There's all kind of medications out there that are natural, not man-made. Starting with what? Marijuana. It's a plant. You take away all that other crap that man puts in it, and it's a medicinal plant that God created for times such as this. Now, she took measures to make sure that her son was taken care of. And like I said, I haven't seen this whole video. I'm watching it just like you guys are. But I'm looking at it from a spiritual eye at this point, because I know just how hard it is to deal with watching someone you love and to feel so helpless that all you can do is to call on God. They had all the money in the world. I didn't have a dime. Me and my husband were living paycheck to paycheck, helping put a son through college and another one at home dealing with bipolar disorder. We didn't have a dime, but what we did have, we used it to the utmost. So, like I said, money's cool if you want the luxuries in life, but the necessities are not money generated.
These were not casual acquaintances, but trusted figures in her life who had been by her side for years. They promised her that they would stay involved, that they would check on Redmond, guide him, and advocate for his well-being. In a way, she tried to create a surrogate family around him, one that could offer not only structure, but also love and presence. Because what good is financial support without human connection?
And here's the thing, humans will let you down. Humans will let you down. Am I right? I know you can call on your closest friends. Sometimes they don't answer the phone when you need them the most. How many people did she go to and ask them to look after her son when she was gone? How many people promised that they would be there for him? Those are the questions I ask. I know someone that I can call on no matter what time of the day. It don't matter what they're doing. He's always on time for me. He's always on time for all of us. He's not on no schedule. See, people, humans, people that have the best intentions, they're not going to always set aside what they're doing to jump for you or yours. They're not going to always be there when you need them the most. They may try, but are they capable? I'm still not hearing anything in this entire video thus far about prayer or anything spiritual. The only thing I heard about close to spirituality was demonic. Demons. They talked about demons, the demons he was fighting. But where's the God in this to fight those demons? Medication don't necessarily fight demons. I know who does. Man done got it twisted. You can't throw money at a demon.
Farrah understood that Redmond needed more than money. He needed people. He needed stability,
He needed
accountability,
God.
and care that only human hands and hearts could give. Yet, as many know, addiction is a storm not easily weathered, and even the strongest safety nets can sometimes tear under its weight. Despite all her efforts, despite the millions she set aside and the friends who promised to watch over him, Redmond's struggles continued long after her death. This reality brings forth a painful question. Can a mother's love, no matter how deep and powerful, always save a child from their own battles? Farrah tried everything within her reach, but some forces remain beyond even a mother's control. Still, when people speak of Farrah Fawcett today, they often remember not just her career as the dazzling star of Charlie's Angels, but also her unwavering devotion as a mother. She could have chosen to spend her last days focusing on herself, on peace, or on her own comfort. Instead, she chose to focus on her son, to plan, to worry, and to love in ways that extended beyond her own lifetime. Her last words were about him. Her last provisions were for him, and her last hope rested in him. That's why her story doesn't just stop with her passing. It continues to ripple through her family in ways both heartbreaking and complicated. And as we now step into what unfolded after Ryan O'Neal's death, you'll see how those family tensions only grew deeper, and why this chapter is one you'll want to stay with until the very end, because it reveals just how much unfinished business still lingered long after Farrah was gone. Family tensions deepen after Ryan O'Neal's death. Ryan O'Neal's passing in December 2023 did not only mark the end of an era for Hollywood, but also reopened old wounds that had never really healed within his family. His death forced many people to look back at the turbulent relationships he shared with his children, and in doing so, it revealed just how much pain had been tucked away for decades. Families often say that death has a way of bringing people closer, but in the case of the O'Neals, it seemed to highlight how fractured things had always been. Was it possible that too many years of anger, resentment, and hurt had already built walls that could no longer be torn down? That question lingered over everything that happened after his passing, and it became clear that the O'Neal family's story was not one of simple mourning, but of decades of complicated emotions colliding all at once. One of the most striking parts of the story was the absence of Ryan's youngest son, Redmond O'Neal, from the funeral. At the time of his father's memorial, Redmond was not free to grieve alongside his family as he was confined to a psychiatric facility.
And that's really unfortunate as well. Again, psychiatric facilities don't always meet the spiritual needs of their patients. This man was his father. This man was his father. Why would you prevent him from going to the funeral of his father? If you had to chain him up, whatever you needed to do, but allow that man to grieve his father and attend his funeral like any other normal human being. You're not treating him like a normal human being. You're treating him like a patient. And that's really sad when you think about it. This man had an opportunity to say goodbye to his father, and it didn't happen. And that's sad. So it makes me wonder just how effective is some of the psychiatric treatment to people when you place things like this in man's hands and he's not using spiritual guidance as well with medications and what. There's nothing wrong with having a profession to help people, but understand that it's not one-sided. There's multifacets in this.
His continued institutionalization meant he could not stand at his father's graveside,
That's a
could not share
shame.
stories,
Hi,
and
Lisa.
could not even whisper a quiet goodbye, and it raised painful questions that many found hard to answer. What does it mean for a son to lose his father while being locked away, unable to take part in the rituals of mourning? Did Redmond feel the absence even more deeply because he was cut off from everyone else in his...
Was that therapeutic for him? I wonder, how does one think that that's going to help someone's psychic by preventing them to do something normal, such as burying a parent, and then you expect him to have some kind of normal closure from losing his father? How was that treatment? How is that treatment? Hey, nephew, how you doing? Nephew says, I take it and it doesn't help. Medicine is demonic. They're putting spells on people. I can't pronounce that word, but equals witchcraft. And don't get me wrong, I think that there's some benefits. But when you play around, hey sweetheart, when you play around with medication and give it to people, almost like you're like they're guinea pigs. Let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. You're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. You don't have the ability to get into someone's inner brain and see exactly what they're thinking and how effective something can be. It's just not right. We living in a time today where we're seeing more people given medication after medication after medication, and then they turn around and self-medicate and self-medicate and self-medicate because this is what society has taught us through the years that is the solution. Medication has its place, but you can't put that first. I'm not Bible thumping, but anybody that's got plain and common sense knows they didn't come here just on the strength of medication. God planted that seed in mama's womb from daddy. God did that. Medication didn't do that. Don't let them fool you. He created you before you knew who you were. And yes, it is demonic. Satan will take whatever man does and twist it to his benefit. Thank you, 8. Thank you. Oh my God, you just hit the nail on the head, sweetheart. They just throw pills at everything. Smoking weed has helped me more than medication. That is exactly what I said about my son. Marijuana is natural. It's a plant. God made that. And whatever God makes, pharmakai, which is in the Bible for witchcraft. See, come on now. Come on now. I'm not Evangelist Vows. Don't get me twisted with that. But I'm speaking real. God made all kinds of things organically to help us as human beings. He made it. My son complained that the medication that the doctors gave him for his bipolar made him into a zombie. And he wasn't right until he threw that shit away and started smoking weed. 8, you just said it right then and there. He threw that mess away in the garbage and started rolling blunts. I said, baby, if that's what helps you level out and be normal and be able to function, then you go ahead, boo-boo. And he smoked that weed from the time he was 19 and a half, 20 years old, until the day he died at the age of 33. When he stopped taking the medication, he no longer had to go into the psychiatric hospital. The medicine takes your emotions away. Weed helps me with pain and my moods. I'm bipolar. Okay. 8, I knew you. I knew I loved you for a reason. You're just like my son. He was bipolar too. He'd be in pain sometimes, and he'd have horrible mood swings. But when he left that medication alone and started smoking weed, he was his old self again. And I'm not saying he was 100%. Let's say maybe 90%, as opposed to being all jacked up from their medication, which had him 50-50 or 40-50. Because he was doing something natural. He was using something that was God created. God created that. And if they would just follow God's plan and what he created and herbs and things of that nature, if they would only follow that and stop getting so big headed about I work for the pharmaceutical companies and I'm a doctor and I. If you were the real I, we wouldn't have this problem. I wonder how many people back in Bible days dealt with this very same situation. I'm just wondering. They didn't have pills back then. I'm just saying, we have grown accustomed to running to the doctor for some of the things that God has provided for us right here on earth. Sometimes running to the doctor can be more harm than good. Now, I know it's necessary to have doctors, don't get me wrong. When we're dealing with the mind, you have to have something instilled in your mind that God has placed there. We're given children. We have to be stewards over these children, and it's our responsibility to first teach them who God is. That's our responsibility, because we ain't gonna always be here. We won't always be here to hug on them and love on them. But if they've been taught to get on their knees and have a personal relationship, half the battle is gone. Yeah, go ahead. Take that one. That's my dinner, I mean. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. Let me get back to where I was. I got interrupted by my grandson.
Family. According to medical staff, letting him out even for a short time carried risks that could have endangered his already fragile mental health. So, while others gathered to pay respects, Redmond was left behind, a decision that underscored just how
Wow.
isolated he had become in his life journey. The
That's
O'Neill
cold.
family had long been known for its tangled
Thank you,
relationships, and
nephew.
Ryan's death only brought those complexities back into the spotlight. Tatum O'Neill, Ryan's daughter, and once one of Hollywood's most celebrated young stars, had experienced a painful and drawn-out estrangement from her father that lasted 25 years. They had only recently mended parts of their bond, sharing moments of reconciliation that seemed to suggest healing was possible. But when he passed, Tatum was left with the heavy burden of grief mixed with uncertainty. How does one grieve a parent who had caused both love and heartbreak in equal measure? Could forgiveness in the final years truly erase the scars left from earlier pain? These were questions that Tatum seemed to wrestle with publicly and privately, and they revealed how complicated the relationship had been to the very end. Meanwhile, Griffin O'Neill, another of Ryan's children, chose to keep his distance even after the news of his father's death spread. Griffin had spoken openly about the troubled history he shared with Ryan, and his choice to remain apart from the mourning process was itself a statement. It is often said that funerals are not for the dead, but for the living. But what happens when the living carry too much pain to stand at the same graveside? Griffin's silence, his physical absence, and his history of public comments all pointed to wounds that never truly healed. He seemed to carry the weight of a past where hurt had outweighed love, and even in death, he could not find himself drawn back into Ryan's orbit. The reality behind all these fractured relationships became clearer when one looked at the allegations Ryan's children had made over the years. Tatum and Griffin had both spoken of a childhood marked by physical and emotional abuse. They described an environment where neglect was common and where the normal boundaries of parenting were crossed time and again. They claimed that substance use had been a regular part of their home life, a detail that painted a troubling picture of what it meant to grow up as Ryan O'Neill's child. For many people, the O'Neills had been a glamorous Hollywood family. But behind the cameras and flashing lights, the children remembered something far different, a childhood where safety and nurture seemed absent. Was it any wonder, then, that the family dynamic remained so fractured decades later? Among the most disturbing accusations was the claim that Ryan himself had introduced his youngest son, Redmond, to substances at an early age.
Bingo. It's been said that Ryan introduced his son, allegedly, to substances. That's a shame. Guess who he must not have introduced his son to? I'll leave that up to you to answer. That's a shame. If you don't pour love into your kids that is outside of the realm of what you got in your pockets, you're lost. You're reaching for the things of the world to satisfy you. And there's no comfort in that. It's only temporary. That dollar bill is only temporary. Those substances that he introduced his son to, that's temporary. We know who's eternal.
If true, it meant that the seeds of Redmond's later battles with substance abuse and mental health were planted by the very person meant to protect him. How does a child grow into stability if the parent guiding them is the same one leading them down destructive paths? For Redmond, those early years seemed to set the stage for a lifetime of struggles that eventually led to his confinement in a psychiatric facility. His absence at Ryan's funeral was not only about present circumstances, but also about a past that had shaped his life in irreversible ways.
That's called sins of the father. That's a generational curse. That is the definition of a generational curse. And they don't even recognize it because I can't say for sure that they didn't have God in their lives. But judging from what I'm seeing here in this video, I ain't heard God one time. Not one time.
The O'Neill family's story after Ryan's death became, in many ways, a mirror of what it had always been: fractured, filled with unanswered questions, and caught between love and resentment. The children's pain was not hidden, but openly shared, whether through interviews, memoirs, or public statements. Each child's experience told a slightly different version of the same story, yet all pointed to a central truth: that Ryan's role as a father was far more complicated than his image as a Hollywood star. For the public, it may have been surprising to see such division at a time that usually calls for unity. But for those who had followed the O'Neill family saga for years, it seemed almost inevitable that Ryan's passing would not heal, but instead reopen long-standing wounds. What does a family do when its foundation is built on cracks rather than strength? For some, grief has the power to mend, to bring people back together as they remember the good over the bad. But for the O'Neills, grief seemed to highlight just how much pain had gone unresolved. Tatum's mixed emotions, Griffin's silence, and Redmond's forced absence all painted a picture of children who, despite sharing a father, were left standing apart from one another. The truth was that Ryan's death did not erase the decades of conflict. Instead, it seemed to etch them even more deeply into the family's history.
And if you guys remember back in those days when Tatum was a young girl, you notice that he put his daughter out there on the big screen at such a young age, real young age, exposing her to things that most adults can't even hardly take. And he can't be there 24/7 for her on the set. Let a child be a child. But no, he put her out there on the big screen. I believe I think she's the youngest one to ever win an Academy Award from her movie from the movie that she was in there with her father. But she was young, very young. And then you wonder why she's got problems as an adult.
It was as though they were living in separate worlds, tied by blood, but divided by history. And the hardest truth of all was that Ryan's death didn't magically wipe away the pain of decades. It carved those cracks even deeper into the family's story. And if you think that's heartbreaking, wait until you see how Redmond's troubled past continues to shape the man he is today. This part of the story will keep you glued, because the shadows he's been running from never really let him go. How Redmond's past continues to haunt his present. Redmond O'Neill's life story is one that many people would describe as both heartbreaking and complicated, a tale that feels almost inevitable when one looks closely at the foundations laid in his early years. His troubled history is not something that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Instead, it is a reflection of patterns that had been forming long before he found himself behind the walls of institutions and courtrooms. One could ask, when someone grows up in an environment filled with both fame and dysfunction, is it really surprising that their life takes such a turbulent path? His struggles did not begin in 2018 or even in his 20s. They were years in the making, shaped by addiction, anger, and choices that often seemed to spiral out of control, no matter how many attempts were made to pull him back. His history with substance addiction is one of the central themes that shaped almost everything else. From a young age, Redmond found himself pulled into the grip of substances that would later define his criminal record. He was first arrested at the age of 20, a moment that seemed to set the tone for much of the next 2 decades. What was the charge? Substance possession, and that was only the beginning.
Now, and 8, I'm sure you can attest to this. I said earlier, when young men start experiencing mental illness, especially bipolar, because this man has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, bipolar, and that third one I can't remember. But usually those things show up around the age of between 18, 19, sometimes 20, 21. And it's ironic that he started using, you know, rugs in order to, I believe, in order to cope with what he was dealing with in his head. But when you've got a couple of superstar parents that are on the road all the time, who's going to be there to really notice these things? They're going to notice him as a problem child and not look at the fact that they're medicating something else that hasn't been diagnosed yet. That's just an observation.
Court records show that his struggles with heroin and methamphetamine became almost cyclical. He would enter rehab, sometimes with genuine hope and determination, but relapse would eventually follow, pulling him back into the same destructive cycle. By the time the year 2018 arrived, he had already accumulated at least 13 substance-related arrests. 13. When one pauses to think about it, it becomes clear that this was not simply a matter of bad luck or occasional poor judgment. It was a deeply entrenched battle that he could not seem to win.
That's right.
And one has to wonder, did he ever truly believe he could free himself? Or had he already resigned himself to the hold that substances had over him? Alongside his addiction came another destructive pattern, one that made his situation even more alarming: violence. At first, his outbursts were not directed at people, but at property, an almost symbolic way of showing the world the frustration and chaos brewing inside him.
And that's what schizophrenia will do to you. You can become very violent with schizophrenia. My question is, was he diagnosed at that time? Chances are he wasn't. They're focused on the substance abuse, but they're not dealing with the why. Why is he dealing with illegal substances? These are questions that should have been asked a long time ago.
But as time went on, the violence escalated. It moved from things that could be repaired to people who could be permanently harmed. His temper and destructive impulses became harder to ignore, and eventually impossible to excuse. The combination of substance abuse and uncontrolled anger is a dangerous mix, and in Redmond's case, it proved to be exactly that. The year 2018 marked a turning point, one that would highlight just how serious and dangerous his behavior had become. In May of that year, within a span of only 1 week, Redmond's actions shocked not only his family, but the entire city of Los Angeles. He was accused of committing an armed robbery at a convenience store, a crime that alone would have been concerning enough. But things did not stop there. He allegedly stabbed a stranger in the side, attacked another man with a broken bottle, and police later connected him to 5 separate unprovoked assaults across the city.
That's a clear indication that he was schizophrenic, but he wasn't diagnosed yet. That right there. But they're still focusing on the drug abuse instead of the underlying issues as to why. And as time goes on and that schizophrenia is not addressed or treated, it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. And that self-medicating made it just as bad, if not worse.
Among those incidents was a particularly brutal case where a victim was stabbed in the head, an act that underlined just how far his violence had escalated. When he was finally arrested, authorities found heroin and methamphetamine in his possession, once again confirming the connection between his substance dependency and his criminal actions. Reading through the list of charges, one cannot help but ask, how does someone's life spiral so rapidly in such a short period of time? And more importantly, could anything have been done earlier to prevent it? Beyond the crimes and the addiction lies another deeply personal layer to Redmond's story, one that revolves around his family. Throughout his time in institutions, whether jails or treatment centers, he has consistently made it known that he holds his parents responsible for much of his pain. He has spoken openly about blaming them for the trajectory of his life, pointing to their celebrity lifestyle and their own struggles with substance abuse as the root cause of his downfall. He has often claimed that the environment he grew up in left him broken long before he even had a chance to choose his own path. This resentment runs so deep that he has refused visits from family members who tried to reach out, cutting himself off from what might have been an avenue for healing. Staff who have observed him over the years note that his isolation is largely self-imposed, driven by the bitterness he holds toward the very people who might have wanted to help him. And here lies a painful question. If someone shuts the door to reconciliation, how much hope is left for real change? It is worth remembering that Redmond is the son of Farrah Fawcett and Ryan O'Neal, two names that hold a powerful place in American pop culture. Many would think that being born into such fame and fortune might have guaranteed him a life of privilege and opportunity. But in reality, it seems to have done the opposite. His parents' own struggles were well known, and their turbulent relationship cast long shadows over his childhood. Was he ever given the stability that children so desperately need, or was he always trying to find his way in an environment that felt chaotic and unpredictable? His claims of parental neglect and dysfunction cannot be dismissed outright, for history shows that the glamour of Hollywood often hides darker truths behind closed doors. As of now, Redmond's story remains one of confinement and stalled potential. He is not remembered for achievements, careers, or contributions to society, but rather for arrests, addiction, and violence. His name often appears in the headlines not because of who his parents were, but because of what he has done.
And then they wonder why he did those things. Nobody bothered to take him to someone that specializes in mental health. Absolutely, Millionaire's Cove. These types of incidents is a cry out for help, love, attention. The parents were not listening because they were hurting and fighting their own demons as well. On top of, not just that, but on top of living the life of an actress or the life of an actor. They're big time. They're out here doing movies. They're out here doing interviews. Even when you don't see them on the big screen, they're out doing something because they have to stay relevant. Hi, Ron Cooley. How are you, sweetie? And all the while they're making sure that the money is rolling in to sustain the family, they've got one child that's suffering, and they attribute it to substance abuse, never considering that it could be something mental. See, that's where the denial comes in. That's where the denial comes in.
It is a tragic twist of fate, the kind of narrative that leaves many asking, could things have been different if he had grown up in another environment, far away from the bright lights and dark temptations of Hollywood?
Absolutely.
Perhaps his path was always destined to be difficult, no matter the setting.
Wow. Well, you guys, all I can say is this, that both young men have very similar mental attributes that could have been easily addressed at a younger age. And it's not for me to say that they did or they didn't, but I'm very confident in that God can change anything if you instill that in your child. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with doctors. There's nothing wrong with psychiatrists. We need those things as well. But first and foremost, you got to pour into your children, not just love for, the material things in life, but for the spiritual things in life. Because the spiritual is what's going to last throughout your entire life. Money comes and goes. Fame can come and go. You can lose your fame overnight. But your spirituality is going to stick with you until you close your eyes for the final time. So with all that said, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and cut this live short. I hope you enjoyed this show. I hope it helped out a little bit in getting an understanding as to the significance of spirituality in your everyday life, especially when you're raising children. And just know, that it doesn't stop with money, it doesn't stop with the job you have, it doesn't stop with the amount of friends you have. It starts within you and what you pour into your children. That's what matters the most. So again, I thank you guys for coming. Tomorrow, tomorrow, I put it in my community post. Tomorrow we're gonna have a little Christmas party. Thank you, life. We're gonna have a little Christmas party. It's gonna be a potluck, so bring whatever you want to bring to the platform. We just gonna sit and chill. There's gonna be no topic, no agenda, no nothing. We just gonna come here and chill and have a good time the day before Christmas. So with all that said, y'all, I love y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Peace out.
Hey there, my kinfolk, thanks for stopping by. Auntie Mickey's house, where we reach for the sky. Every comment and smile, you make my heart glow. Together we're strong, together we grow. From gossip to politics, we cover it all. Sharing laughs and thoughts, having a ball. Your support means everything that I know. Feels like family here in this sweet show. So let's keep it flowing, keep the love alive. Every moment together makes me thrive. You're more than viewers, you're my kinfolk. You see, my gratitude runs deep as the sea. Thank you for being here, for sharing your time with each comment, with each rhyme. You're my kinfolk, my family, my crew. So much love to all of you. Turn up the camera, let's make it bright. Your support lifts me up, takes flight.